Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are in tomato season prime time, so I hope everyone is enjoying New Jersey state vegetable this month. Let's jump in and get started with our tomato talk. Before we start talking about tomatoes, I'll share a little bit about Rutgers Cooperative Extension. Rutgers Cooperative Extension is a partnership between Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, the Board of County Commissioners of New Jersey, and the USDA's National Institute of Food and Agriculture. We are Rutgers' arm to local communities and have offices in all counties throughout New Jersey. We offer cooperative extension services to support the community and deliver research-based information. We have 3 departments, agriculture and natural resources, and at FCHS, we provide outreach about nutrition, chronic disease prevention, food safety, and overall wellness. Rutgers Cooperative Extension is an affirmative action, equal opportunity employer. There we go. So our tomato talking points for today. First, we'll talk a little bit about the health benefits of tomatoes and why they are good for us. We will talk about some ways to enjoy tomatoes, both the classic ways we may be familiar with, but also maybe some new creative uses that you haven't thought of. And then I'll briefly touch on some evidence-based and science-backed ways that we can safely preserve our garden harvest if you are growing your own tomatoes, or stocking up to save your Jersey fresh tomatoes for the winter months. And first, just because this always comes up, is a tomato a fruit or a vegetable? Looking at tomatoes from a plant science perspective, they are defined as a fruit because they grow from a pollinated flower and have seeds. So there is a picture on the screen for you of tomato flowers. And if we stick with this botanical definition, we not only have to call cantaloupes, watermelons, and peaches fruit, but also olives, cucumbers, zucchini, avocados, and peppers are fruit as well. We would also have to accept that bananas are botanically berries. If we invite chefs to chime in, our culinary friends would tell us that tomatoes are a vegetable because they are used in savory and not sweet dishes. If we look to my plate from the United States Department of Agriculture, 1 large tomato counts as a 1 cup equivalent in the red-orange vegetable category. We can even take it a step further and look at legal history. Back in the 1880s, a tomato importer from the West Indies refused to pay the Port of New York's vegetable tariff, arguing that tomatoes are a fruit, therefore he should not have to pay a vegetable tax. So the 2 parties went to court, and for what would end up being a 6-year legal battle that went all the way to the Supreme Court, many dictionaries were brought out, witnesses were called, and I have this following excerpt from the Supreme Court case, Nix v. Hedden in 1893. Botanically speaking, tomatoes are the fruit of a vine, just as are cucumbers, squashes, beans, and peas. But in the common language of the people, whether sellers or consumers of provisions, all these are vegetables, which are grown in kitchen gardens, and which, whether eaten cooked or raw, are, like potatoes, carrots, parsnips, turnips, beets, cauliflower, cabbage, celery, and lettuce, usually served at dinner, in or with or after the soup, fish or meats, which constitute the principal part of a repast, and not, like fruits generally, as dessert. So the court ruled in favor of tomatoes falling under the vegetable category, and therefore the vegetable tariff. Whether or not you take the side of a botanist, a chef, my plate, or a legal historian, tomatoes are a nutritious addition to your diet. Let's explore why. So here are just some of the health benefits we can capture by including tomatoes in our diet. First, eating tomatoes counts towards your vegetable intake, according to my plate. And with most Americans falling short of recommended vegetable and fiber intakes, enjoying tomatoes this summer can help you meet your needs. As part of an overall healthy diet, eating vegetables instead of higher calorie food can help us reduce our overall calorie consumption and help us with weight management. The fiber in tomatoes helps us stay full longer for after a meal and can also help us from overindulging on other summer goodies. if we are very full from our beautiful tomatoes. One medium tomato, smaller than the beefsteak tomato I have pictured here on screen, contains over 10% of the potassium that we need each day. Adding potassium-rich foods to your diet can help lower blood pressure, which in turn can assist in the prevention of strokes, heart attacks, and other heart-related problems. The vitamin A that is found in tomatoes can help improve vision, help prevent night blindness, and may reduce the risk of macular degeneration. Vitamin C is a powerful antioxidant, protecting cells throughout our body from damage, and one medium tomato contains over 20% of the vitamin C that adults need each day. The vitamin K in tomatoes helps with bone health and can help keep our bones strong. Next, we have lycopene, one of the phytonutrients that are found in tomatoes, and researchers have linked consuming lycopene to preventing several types of cancer, including prostate cancer. The antioxidants in tomatoes, vitamin C being one of them, can reduce cell damage. The beta-carotene and lycopene in tomatoes helps protect our skin against damage and makes skin less sensitive to UV damage. Not a replacement for sunscreen, but I'll take what I can get in August, and I'll still wear my sunscreen. Cooking tomatoes helps make the lycopene easier for our bodies to absorb. So after the presentation, I'll be sending out some of our FCHS tomato soup recipes for you to try. Researchers have identified two types of lycopene, cis-lycopene and trans-lycopene. Tangerine tomatoes have an overall lower lycopene content compared to red tomatoes, but they have more of the cis-lycopene. And there was one small study finding that the cis-lycopene is a bit more bioavailable than the trans-lycopene, found mostly in red tomatoes. So we say enjoy a mix of tomato varieties and get both kinds. And before we talk about ways to enjoy tomatoes, I just want to point out that there are so many varieties to choose from. According to a Rutgers fact sheet about growing tomatoes, there are thousands of varieties. And this expands our options when it comes to ways to enjoy tomatoes. And these are just a few pictures of different varieties that I have grown in my garden, and it does not by any means cover the whole tomato menu. We have tomatoes across the rainbow of colors. We have our traditional red varieties, but there are also orange tomatoes, big and small, yellow tomatoes, purple tomatoes, and tomatoes that are ripe when they are green. Cherry tomatoes can be striped different colors. We have in our teaching garden growing right now a red and orange striped cherry tomato. I have grown in the bottom right corner. That is a Brad's Atomic Grape variety. That one is purple and green in the picture, and then it gets red streaks as it ripens. And if you are trying to convince the little ones in your life to eat more veggies, the orange cherry tomatoes, we call them garden candy in my family. They are very sweet and they are a very easy sell to little ones. If you aren't growing your own, check out farm stands and farmers markets near you. Try a new color, try a new shape, and you may fall in love with a new favorite. And if you aren't growing your own this year, think about it over the fall and the winter, and we will talk again in the spring. If you aren't growing your own tomatoes and you are looking for a spot to pick up the famous Garden State staple, the QR code on the screen will take you to the Jersey Fresh website and their Where to Find Jersey Fresh search bar. Jersey Fresh is an advertising, promotional, and quality grading program that is run by the New Jersey Department of Agriculture. And growers register with the state quality grading program and become licensed to use the logo that you see on the screen. So when you see the Jersey Fresh logo, it means the produce or produce in products like tomato sauce was grown in New Jersey and meets these specific quality standards. Looking for Jersey Fresh is an easy way to find the best quality locally grown tomatoes. And another fun fact for today, New Jersey is ranked nationally in the top 10 tomato producers. And as I said at the beginning, tomatoes are our state vegetable. So we want the fun part. What do we do with them? How do we enjoy them? Let's start with the quickest, easiest ways. First up on the left, we have a contender for the quickest, easiest side dish that you can pair with a really quick weeknight meal or have on the side with a grilled meal if you're trying to keep the cooking heat outside where it belongs this time of year. And this platter is just sliced orange and red beefsteak tomatoes with a little bit of olive oil and garlic powder sprinkled on top. I threw some cut basil on the side. When tomatoes are fresh and in season, like they are this time of year, they are flavorful and juicy all on their own. You don't need to do much to them. They are already delicious. And using different colors of tomatoes makes this more interesting. It makes it more visually appealing. Of course, you could throw some wedges of fresh mozzarella in between and enjoy a nice caprese salad. Next we have is delicious to throw a nice thick slice of Jersey tomato on any sandwich. I have tuna on the screen, but it would be equally delicious on turkey or anything else that you like. And then finally, a quick tomato side salad of just chopped tomatoes. This is convenient if you have different sizes that you want to use up. Maybe you have some cherries, maybe you have some smaller cocktail tomatoes, maybe you have one big beefsteak tomato. Cut them all up, mix them all together, and all you need to add to this is a little olive oil, some fresh basil. If you're growing your own tomatoes, I hope you're growing basil right alongside. You can also throw a few drops of balsamic vinegar into this. Crush up a clove of garlic, whatever you like, whatever you have in your crisper drawer or growing in your backyard. This is also great with some cucumbers chopped up into it. You can throw some chickpeas or cannellini beans in for a protein boost. And if you do that, this tomato salad makes for a fast and nutritious lunch if you just stuff it in a whole grain pita. And you don't need a recipe for something like this. Whatever you have on hand and whatever you are in the mood for. Topping a pizza with fresh tomatoes is another way to quickly and easily add more veggies to your diet. You can up the healthiness of your pizza even more by using whole grain crust and low-fat cheese. You might think of tomatoes and pasta when we think of the most classic way to enjoy tomatoes, but there are plenty of ways to be creative with that. Pictured in the middle here, we have a dish made with lentil pasta, chickpea or lentil pasta. It's gluten-free for our gluten-free friends, and it also is full of protein. And this is a hearty base for a quick, meatless weeknight meal. You can toss the pasta in a saute pan with a little olive oil or vegetable oil, garlic if you like garlic, and throw in your fresh tomatoes. When I have an overabundance of cherry tomatoes coming in, I'll cut them in half and throw them in just like this. And again, just like the salad, you could add any other vegetables you like or have. This is really great with zucchini. It would be wonderful with eggplant. You could throw some mushrooms in. And then finish it with fresh herbs like basil or parsley to add even more flavor. And it takes less than a half an hour to pull together on a weeknight. It's a high fiber, plant protein packed dish. And the leftovers are good for lunch the next day. We can also enjoy tomatoes at breakfast. Pictured here on the right, we have shakshuka, which is a North African dish. Eggs are poached in a rich tomato and red pepper sauce. It's seasoned with thyme, cumin, and bay leaves. You can also sprinkle fresh cilantro on top. You could add sliced olives or feta cheese if you wish. There are many different recipes for this. Some have coriander and garlic. I will send a recipe out after the presentation, and I encourage you to try this. It's delicious. Even more ways to enjoy tomatoes. If you are growing your own tomatoes, this is a tip for using at the end of the season. Every fall, when the tomato plants are pretty much done, I'll go out and pick any green ones that won't have a chance to get ripe before frost. And then I just throw them in a big batch of turkey chili with green tomatoes, ripe tomatoes, anything else in the vegetable patch. We can also opt for tomato-based sauces over cream-based sauces to enjoy our tomatoes. And this is a nicer option in the summer where you might be looking for something a little bit lighter. It also lowers your saturated fat intake and is much more heart healthy than some of those heavy creamy sauces. Tomatoes are also easy to throw into soups, stews, and if green tomato chili isn't your thing, keep it classic. Just use the ripe ones. And we can also enjoy them at breakfast in omelets, thrown into an egg or tofu scramble. Really, there are. And if you have a favorite way that you like to enjoy tomatoes, drop it in the chat and share it with everybody. So we'll talk a little bit about how you can preserve tomatoes so that we can enjoy the flavor of the Garden State all year long. If you are going through the time and labor of preserving food, treat yourself to the best quality from the start. Not only does this respect your time, it ensures you have the highest quality, most nutritious product. and it helps ensure the safety of your product as well. Microbes will multiply very rapidly in bruised or damaged fruit. So we want to be selecting firm, ripe tomatoes if we're freezing. And you can freeze raw tomatoes without blanching them to use in sauces, soups, or stews later on in the winter. The National Center for Home Food Preservation recommends dipping tomatoes in boiling water for 30 seconds to help loosen the skin. Then you would core and peel them, pack them in freezer bags, or if you're brave enough to freeze in glass, which I am not anymore, you can pack them into wide-mouthed jars and leave 1 inch of headspace before putting them in the freezer. And these are, again, great to cook with come winter. Store-bought winter tomatoes cannot compare to saving your own garden state goodies and enjoying them. You can also freeze stewed tomatoes, in which case the National Center for Home Food Preservation recommends removing the stem end, peeling them, quartering them, and cooking them until they are tender for about 10 to 20 minutes. And then once they have cooled off, same process as fresh, pack them into your freezer-safe containers, leave some headspace, and pack them away into the freezer. And to get the best quality out of your frozen tomatoes, it is recommended to enjoy them within 8 to 12 months. So they'll last you until next tomato season. And I am going to talk a little bit about canning tomatoes, but this is by no means a comprehensive guide to canning. If you are interested in learning this method, please seek information from evidence-based and reliable sources. The QR code will take you to the National Center for Home Food Preservation, which is hosted by the University of Georgia. The page has links to each chapter of the USDA Guide to Home Canning, and this is where you will find tested and approved canning recipes. Preserving food by canning is a for rule followers only event. We have to follow the safety precautions and only use tested recipes from reliable sources. The recipes will give you instructions for either a water bath, the boiling water method of canning, or for pressure canning. And if a recipe calls for ingredients to be pressure canned, you cannot use the water bath or boiling water method. Canning recipes cannot be modified. And that is because in the world of canning, food is categorized as either a high acid or a low acid food. And if we change the recipe, if we change the canning method, or if we use an untested recipe, you can run the risk of having botulism in your canned good. Botulism is a type of bacteria that thrives in low oxygen conditions. And when we can, we are vacuum sealing the lid to the jar, and that creates an oxygen poor environment, same environment that botulism loves to thrive in. Botulism can survive boiling water temperatures, so that water bath canning method is not going to get rid of it all the way. In order to destroy it, the food you are canning has to either have an acidic pH, so be a high acid food that has a pH less than or equal to 4.6. Pressure canning is the method used for low acid foods because it creates a temperature higher than the boiling point of water, around 240 degrees for us here in New Jersey at sea level. The reason I am always so cautious to remind people about botulism is because there is no way of knowing if a canned good has botulism. We can't smell it, we can't taste it. It is potentially fatal. And symptoms can occur within 12 to 72 hours and can include digestive upset in some cases, blurred or double vision, difficulty swallowing, difficulty speaking and breathing. Botulism spores are around us in the environment. And because the spores only grow and multiply in those oxygen poor, low oxygen spaces, like the inside of our jars, they aren't dangerous to us when they're in the environment. They become dangerous in these oxygen depleted or anaerobic environments. So which method do we use for tomatoes? Water bath or pressure canning? The most recent canning guidelines recommend adding acid to all tomato products prior to canning. And this is because the acidity of tomatoes really varies depending on which variety you're growing, how they were grown, and how mature the tomatoes are. The more ripe your tomato, the less acidic it is. And the National Center for Home Food Preservation recommends adding acid to all tomato products, whether you're water bath canning or pressure canning. And it is safe to water bath can tomatoes when you add the appropriate amount of acid. The reason they recommend adding acid to pressure canning recipes with tomatoes is because the pressure processing times and the temperatures were tested with acidified tomatoes. So we just don't have enough research to make safe recommendations for folks who are pressure canning tomatoes without the added acid. To have our acid added, we could use bottled lemon juice, citric acid, which you can find in the store alongside other canning supplies like jars and lids. And 5% vinegar can also be added to lower the pH. And the amount of acid is going to depend on the size of the jar, whether you're canning pints or quarts. So you definitely want to be following your canning recipe. And if you plan to can tomatoes, same with freezing, we're going to choose fruits that are disease-free. You want to choose tomatoes that are slightly underripe or that are firm and ripe. We don't want to can tomatoes from dead or frost-killed vines. And canning is fun. It's safe when you're following the recipe and you're following the procedures. And it's a way to preserve the taste of summer and preserve tomatoes without having to take up precious freezer real estate. So this is just, again, a brief introduction to the safety rules of canning. If you're interested, please check out the National Center for Home Food Preservation, and I will send out some more info in our follow-up email after the presentation about canning tomatoes. So our takeaways for today: enjoy tomatoes as part of a general healthful diet with many other colorful fruits and vegetables. If you saw a new way to enjoy tomatoes that you haven't tried from today's presentation, I hope you try it. And again, if you are preserving tomatoes, follow science-backed preservation methods from reliable sources. And with that, we will release the second poll and ask you what you thought about today's presentation. Thank you very much for spending lunch with us. Our next Lunch and Learn, an apple a day, will be on September 11th at 12:30.